All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Of course, over on Rumble, I do see that chat is working. I'm not 100% sure what time it is Eastern because there was, of course, daylight savings ending. So I don't know. It's Greek to me. Let's see here. We have Spaz out. I see we meet again Monday. Rendrock saying clunk and Aaron Yana saying, when do his live streams usually start? I have no clue. I'm bad at time zones, so it's Greek to me. We'll make sure we're actually live. By the way, there may be several interruptions here. Of course, my wife and daughter are out on a walk, but because it's sprinkling, she may come back early. That's possible. And also, I am waiting on a delivery. It may come today, although I don't think so. I think it's more likely tomorrow. And that's an MRE. I ordered 3 of them the other day. I saw an MRE video. And they look so tasty. I was like, shit. It's been a long time since I made one of those. So let me get back in on the game. Let's see. Am I live? Yeah, I'm live on Rumble. Okay, everything's perfect and kosher. Yeah, apparently it's 8 o'clock Eastern. So I guess, I don't know. Does my show start an hour later or earlier? Again, I have no clue. We got to talk about some TDS with regards to Trump's Waco rally. And my thoughts about the rally in general. Also, Cuomo and Alvin Bragg. Oh boy, politics is making very strange bedfellows at the moment. Digital blackface, which I covered this morning. I was partially incorrect on one aspect of that story, so we'll get into that a little bit as well. And I'll begin here in a moment. Yeah, it's 8:02 Eastern. Okay. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. Clank, clank. I don't have my coffee at the moment. Oh no, however will I survive? Whatever shall I do? So we'll get right into this with the TDS sufferers in the Waco rally. Of course, Donald Trump starting his first inaugural rally of the actual presidential campaign that he's waging. And he got thousands and thousands of people to show up at the tarmac at the airport in Waco, Texas. Now, Waco was obviously chosen for a reason. There are overtones of the suppression and abuses and overreach of government. Of course, the federal government immolating a bunch of children at Waco. That is canonical. The idea that the Davidians started the fire does not appear to be true. I believe the federal government did it on purpose. And not allowing people to escape. Think what you will about Koresh, who was a crazy individual, but he did not actually appear to have automatic weapons at the Waco compound at Mount Carmel. Otherwise, they probably would have noted that and in their reports, and they didn't for a reason. That's the only reason they had a warrant to search the property in the first place. It was effectively an attempt to abuse the people that were there, and when they resisted, they decided to kill a bunch of them. So it made sense. I would like to point something out. Link in the description. This is my particular link with regards to this. I've got a message here. Never mind. This is to a picture, a piece of aerial footage of the rally that Trump had the other day in Waco. And people are saying, well, there weren't actually that many people that showed up. It wasn't the 15,000 that were reported. It doesn't appear to be 15,000, by the way. The reports may differ at rallies because people are just taking a very rough head count. It was actually only a few thousand people. Now, I'd like to point something out when I look at this image. Firstly, you're talking about looking down at the tarmac from a considerable distance. If you look at close-up footage of the actual rally itself, there were a lot of people there. I would estimate 7,000 roughly, thereabouts. That's not bad considering that it's in Waco. Waco is not a big city. It's a smaller end city. It's like the size of Burlington. If you can get 5,000-6,000 people to show up in Burlington, Vermont, the rally would be considered successful. Bernie is probably the only one that could pull that off back in that neck of the woods. I would also note that you can see people queuing up for about a fucking half a mile at the very least along the road, waiting to get into the venue. And that's because you got to understand, and I'm assuming that these people have never traveled by air. When you are coming down around, landing on the tarmac, how long does it usually take you to disembark, even if it's a privately scheduled flight? So it's Donald Trump. They're obviously making their priorities straight for that. Half an hour or thereabouts. Oh, there is plenty of time for more people to come into the venue, and that's exactly what happened. If you look at this photo and then you look at photographs or video that was taken at the actual rally, they do not tell the same story, although this particular rally size would already be fairly large. They're trying to claim it's like 2,000 people. Bullshit. It was far more than that. We all know that. Trump frightens them. That's why they're going whole hog. If they can't attack the message, they'll, for some reason, attempt to try to tackle the size of the rally. Look at the aircraft hangars in the background. Once you realize how big those intermediate-sized hangars are, you'll realize that this crowd is not actually small. I see so much TDS. Bill Mitchell becoming the ultimate TDS sufferer. He's worse than Ron Perlman at this point. Makes about 100 tweets a day. Most of them have to do with Trump. Despite the fact that he is a DeSantis fan, he rarely mentions him, except in the context of Donald Trump. We're seeing an entirely new wave of TDS now, with people that have switched to Team DeSantis, but nonetheless, they constantly talk about Trump. It's inexplicable. I talk about both of them. I've made it clear that I mainly support Trump as the front-running candidate, and I'm with him. He's running. I support him. I'll cast my vote for him. I believe that he's the right choice. I want to see him go full Grover Cleveland because it'll make the liberals' head spin, for one thing. I don't think DeSantis has the advantages that his fans are dogpiling him with. Well, he's basically Trump without the baggage. Do you honestly think if he's a populist or tries to phrase himself as a populist, he won't meet with the same exact treatment that Donald Trump has met with? I think that that's pie in the sky bullshit. I think that he would. I have no problem with DeSantis. I don't think that he's a deep state agent and the whole, like the Bushes and Paul Ryan's thing. A lot of that's explainable. So I don't have a problem with DeSantis. It's just that unless he wins in a fair primary, and I don't expect him to, I'm going to default to supporting Trump. If Trump were to drop right now, I would hope Rand Paul got in. I would put Rand Paul above him. DeSantis is fine. I don't have any DeSantis derangement syndrome, which is what they're trying to cast it off as. Well, hashtag cult 45. Trump's fans are all sorts of messed up and they all hate DeSantis. I don't hate the dude. He's doing a good job as governor. I just think that if he gets in, he's biting off more than he can chew. He might destroy his political career, which as a fairly popular governor in a state where he's guaranteed to have a continuing political influence, it just doesn't make any sense. The knight is trying to be the king for absolutely no reason. You're already a knight. You're already valuable. And I think that that would be a problem. He hasn't even announced yet, and these people have massive TDS. DeSantis is fine. There's nothing wrong with him particularly, although I know a lot of Trump fans do have a problem with him. Just like a lot of DeSantis fans have a problem with Trump, but not all. Some of them, they just think that DeSantis is more electable. I may disagree with them, but I have a problem with their particular situation, their particular position, rather. But look at this picture. They're using this as a flex on Donald Trump. Yes, he only managed to fill up half of the landing strip at the Waco airport. He should have filled up the whole thing. Obviously, this is proof that Donald Trump is done. Simon Webster, clank, clank from the United Cuckdom. Stephen Nizek, Biden plans counter rally at Ruby Ridge to extol the virtues of government action. Oh boy, wouldn't that be funny. Or at Tammy McVeigh's former home. Julian DeShara, hey Tarl, did you see Ron DeSantis' interview with Piers Morgan? Basically confirmed he's running for president. He leans in that direction. That much is beyond estimation. I would point out that there are some people that are still cautiously optimistic he won't get in. Number one being Christie. We will be talking about him. Wholesome memes. I'm finally adding cauliflower to my garden crops. Cauliflower is good. By the way, you can marinate that shit in a blend of Asian, sort of, especially Indian herbs and spices, and then bake it up. Oh boy, I made that one time. It was a crowd pleaser. Michael Greco, have you seen the Cope articles about people heading for the exits 30 minutes into Trump's rally? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there were a few people with screaming kids that left early. That's going to happen in any rally, unless it's a Biden rally. Then there's no kids there. They're not allowed for obvious legal reasons. I'm sure that happened, but the idea that people started filtering out en masse and he was left with 5 people listening to him, that's the insinuation. It's the same shit we saw in 2016. Do you remember when they tried to contrast Trump's rally with Beto's rally, Beto O'Rourke, in El Paso, actually? And Trump had probably 7,000 or 8,000 people there. Beto may have gotten 1,000, maybe 2. But they did a really close-in shot on the Beto rally, and then they tried to do the same shot for Trump and claim that he had less people that showed up. But then we got shots that were taken by drones and taken by people in the actual crowd and up on stage, and we knew that that wasn't real. But there are people who still believe that Beto O'Rourke somehow drew more people to his border rally than Trump did. Fubar 2020. Did Soros endorse DeSantis? He did not endorse him. No, that is actually not true. What he did say is that I think he said that he expected him to win or something to that effect. That's not really an endorsement. It's more of a personal opinion. And I don't support the Trump-DeSantis feud anyway. If we're going to unite the country and drive back the forces of globalism, infighting is not the way to do that. Simple Logic 90. Have you ever heard of Tick history? Guy does an amazing job showing how the Nazis were socialists in great detail with sources. I can do it much more easily in one sentence. The Nazis called themselves socialists. That's the label they chose to use. Next news story. Andrew Cuomo blasts Manhattan DA Bragg's Trump probe. I think it's all politics. Yes. Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, you'll probably understand why this is important. He's got a severe TDS, by the way, says he expects Trump to be indicted next week. He expects the indictment to still happen, but it's all political, according to him. Now, why would Cuomo come out and say this? He's had his own goings-ons with the prosecutorial system in New York, after all, and he was effectively cleared, although he had to step aside, leading to the current situation there with Hochul, etc. And it's very funny. Yeah, here's a quote from him. I don't understand why Bragg is putting so much emphasis on this case, the former governor told WABC Radio on Friday night. A person breaks the law, I get it, but on the state side, this is a misdemeanor case. It's really a federal case because he needs to be a campaign, he needs it to be a campaign finance fraud case, which is a federal case, and that's what Bragg is going to have to do to get a felony out of this. So you've got Cuomo, again, he's part of the machine politic of New York, effectively warning, hey, this is going to be a difficult one because on the state level, this isn't really a felony at all. See, what's the problem here? Assuming that we go by what Cuomo is saying. If it's not a felony, if it's a misdemeanor case, the statute of limitations elapsed several years ago, and so there really shouldn't be a case at all. This is what's known as going fishing within the law. They are fishing for the opportunity to prosecute Donald Trump. I don't know. I still don't know that they'll be successful. I mean, even if they indict, so the grand jury indicts, they bring him in. The grand jury doesn't need to be fronted exculpatory evidence. That's another problem that people are having right now when they're defending Trump. The grand jury does not necessarily need to be fronted any exculpatory evidence at all. The whole concept is, do we meet the threshold to even proceed with an actual legal proceeding? And so you don't need that. All you need to do is establish the evidence against the potential defendant. If you fall short of an indictment, it means you have absolutely nothing. Even if you indict, then you have the discovery phase, and then you have exculpatory evidence. And on that, I think that Trump wouldn't actually, he's not going to go to jail anyway, even if he gets found guilty. They'd fine him or give him house arrest or something because he's the former president and has a security detail that literally, physically cannot be detached from him for constitutional reasons. That being said, it's a real long stretch that this case goes anywhere. And Andrew Cuomo, oddly enough, appears to understand this before a lot of people, a lot of mainline pundits. On second thought, had a blast at the Waco rally. The sun kind of cooked me and my calves. Now look and smell like crisp bacon. But oh well. Also, Trump has this nomination no matter who joins, wouldn't you think? Not necessarily. It's possible he loses it. I just think there's a 99% chance that he gets it because I'm looking at the field and saying, if DeSantis doesn't get in, there's no other talent necessarily to go against him. If DeSantis does get in, that doesn't preclude the possibility that with Haley and Ramaswamy and probably 2 or 3 others in the race, the anti-Trump vote gets watered down so much that it's impossible for them to prevail. You're going to see some shenanigans, though. It's going to be an interesting election, no matter what happens from here on out. Let's go and check the live chat over on Rumble as well. Yeah, of course. It would choose right now for sleet to be coming out of the sky. Thank you, Weather. I really I approve of your decision. But yeah, at any time there might be a ring at the door. So if I do have to like mute and go off here, you'll know why. It's either the MRE or it's Liz getting back. So next news story. Oh boy, this is a good one. And I will correct myself on one inaccuracy for my morning video on the subject. What's digital blackface and why is it wrong when white people use it? Now, of course, I guess Asian people, can they do it? What about white Hispanics? I mean, they're white, but they're also they're ethnic or whatever. What about somebody from Indonesia? Are they allowed to use digital blackface? This concept actually goes back to the middle of the 2010s. It goes back to the proto-woke period of 2017 or thereabouts. And the concept is that when people use memes that involve black people, it's a form of minstrel show. And I already explained this morning the irony of making that claim. I'll explain it again in a moment. It is an old claim, but it never really took off. The left is now trying to astroturf it a fucking again. They're so hard up for ideas that they're recycling their own failed memes at this point. That makes it even funnier than my morning video. The morning video, I thought this was a novel concept, like that these people dreamed it up, in the last few months. Apparently, the basic concept has been around for a while, but it fell so flat and was just flooded out by people guffawing at them that they went radio silent about it, and now they're trying to revive it. That shows even more desperation. So my apologies for the morning video talk about this. I was wrong. It's actually funnier than I originally thought. Imagine that. The concept is that if you, let's say that I post a meme and it involves like Clarence Thomas with the glowing eyes or something to show, hey, I don't give a fuck, I'm more powerful than you, you will be destroyed. That's basically what that meme pertains to. It's the equivalent of me putting on a burnt cork on my face and doing the Sambo dance or something like that. Digital blackface. What I pointed out is the way to deflect off on this, and it should be proactive. All of you out there that are listening right now, I'm good with linguistics when it comes to memetics. Front the concept of digital segregation or of meme segregation and chastise them that way. And appropriate their term, of course, and say, no, it's not blackface. You're just trying to be digitally segregative. That'll work because these people, if they want to engage in newspeak, they're going to be fucking with the best. Here's the thing. I would like to point out one aspect of this that was of particular interest. When you compare putting a meme on the internet of a black person in whatever situation they happen to be, when you compare it to blackface, doesn't that mean that the woke left should be doing it more? Because you've been fronting the evolutionary offspring of blackface, which is drag performances, as being necessary and healthy for children, and as being, oddly enough, a form of gender identity, which it's not, but they're claiming that it is. It's part of LGBTQ plus MAP 123 ABC. They've been doing that for a couple of years. Now, that's not reality, but that's the way they perceive reality. So if the evolution of minstrel shows into something that basically is about gender, so instead of joking about, the mammy thing, you're joking about the Karen thing, and you have men, sometimes straight men, sometimes gay, and sometimes it's more of an identity for their personhood, sometimes it's more of a performance art. And they dress in heavy makeup with the long nails, the high heels, and the stuffed bra and stuff. If you're applauding that, and you think that that's fine, but you don't think that minstrelsy is fine, does that mean that gender is subjugate to race in your importance hierarchy, or does it mean that you're just being a woke fucking turd? I think the latter. In some cases, I think that maybe the former does play a role. But that is the truth. If you're going to bring up minstrel shows as a reason why black person memes shouldn't be posted by anyone who's not black, well, then that's a good thing. Minstrel show is good. Minstrel show is not bad. You've told us this. You've been simping for drag now for the last few years, especially when it's hyper-sexualized and in the context of kids watching it. Well, then what's the fucking problem? Maybe we should do the same with race. You can have white person shows too, I don't give a shit if a black person wants to put on whiteface and then have a skit where they're preparing the most bland of foods and they try to play basketball, but they can't jump, and they're riding around on a Segway or something. That's funny. It's funny because it's stereotypical, hyperbolic, and irreverent. That's the whole fucking point. By the way, drag is the same as long as you don't have a dude twerking on a 10-year-old or something like that. It's fine. Adults, yeah, watch it at your leisure. We need more minstrelsy, I guess, in this world. And this article appears to agree with me by default, but they won't admit to it, of course. Adonis Adams, 2 things. 1, how do you change public perception around drag? 2, how do you hold companies accountable for using drag to promote their products to kids? Thanks. Well, you just point out again, the minstrel link would work with people who are left-leaning and not completely brainwashed, I think. I've pointed this out to other people and said, look, which in the Wikipedia archive itself, it gives that attribution. And Wikipedia is woke these days, so that's pretty damning. As far as holding companies accountable, you either do or do not do business with them. You can organize a boycott if you want. They tend to be fairly leaky ships, so it's usually not particularly worth it unless it's particularly egregious. Part of the society doesn't have any problem with the idea of a dude twerking in the face of a 4-year-old, so I don't think that a boycott will work. Just don't buy the Gillette razors. The Patriot Chiro. The Republicrats are controlled by the same billionaires, owned, bought, and sold. Yeah, there's a uniparty in the United States, absolutely. Mega Sea Monkey, good morning, Sticks. Would you ever do ayahuasca? I plan to do it in Peru in a few years. Clanko. I brewed ayahuasca once. I got some fairly weak audio hallucinations and a general bizarre feeling, but La Purga kicked in a little bit too quick for me to see anything particularly interesting. To be clear, I don't use any psychotropics now. Salvia was better than ayahuasca anyway. It's a lot easier. Fictitious Dave Savage. Digital blackface if I Photoshop white to black. The Grizzly. If Joe Biden is the generation's George W. Bush of president, replete with Iraq and Katrina. If so, what are the repercussions going forward? No, Biden is worse than W because W played dumb. Joe Biden really is dumb. Other than that, yeah, there's a similarity. The repercussions are we all suffer for the duration of his stewardship. Orwell's goon. Even my Una library closed during the pandemic, but they still made us turn in our work. Internet Archive was better and helped me finish my master's. Yeah, exactly. I covered that case as my New Tech exclusive today. The Hetchet case against archive.org. Completely stupid. The judge in that case is stupid too. Pepe Payne on Rumble. White is not a race. Black is not a race. They are colors. Change my mind. Well, yeah, I mean, if you look into the subgroupings there, what is white? Okay, so this person's white, but they're of Irish heritage. That one's white, but they're of Norwegian heritage. And that one's Polish. Culturally, linguistically, etc. Other than that genetic overlap in the skin tone, there's not a huge amount in common. These people killed each other for thousands of years. Same is true of black people. You go to Nigeria. I'll tell you this. Go to Nigeria, to some Yoruba village. And say, well, you're basically the same as that Maasai dude I met in Tanzania. See what fucking happens. There were ethnic attacks in South Africa only a few years ago on a bunch of people from other countries in the area, Mozambique, Angola, and so forth, that had come to South Africa to start businesses because there's more of an economy there, an industrial economy. And people were burning cars and attacking people and doing crazy shit because they don't see it as, hey, it's the black race, we're all the same. They see it more as a tribal thing. So it is, I mean, technically you're true. Although if you're going to create a post-tribal sort of conglomerate like that, it's going to be based on something. Asian, people with certain appearances from a certain geography. Black, the same thing. White, the same thing. Hispanic, which is not definitely not a race, has to do explicitly with linguistic and ethnic heritage, would be the same. Ian Sticks, you feel that the alarming testosterone decline in the U.S. is rat paradise situation? However, not an issue outside of the West. Why? Implications? Thanks, buddy. Clank. I don't know. I've never determined that there is a testosterone decline myself. Do I trust the studies that are saying that? Well, maybe. If there is such a thing, I happen to believe that it has to do with pheromonal overload. So yes, it would be a rat paradise situation. It's not happening in countries with less dense populations, and it tends to be relegated mostly to urban areas. So get rid of urbanization as much as you can, you solve the problem. People are happier when they have a bit of room to roam, and they're not packed in like sardines. BW. For years, the left acted like they super cared for women. Now it's just abortion and erasure and replacing us with men. Yeah, exactly. Women's sports are... I never thought that I would see the day that the existence of women's sports would become a contentious social issue, but somehow they found a way. Next news story, beware deepfake reality as Trump dominates headlines. I like how they make it all sinister about Trump here. This is a CNN article, so yeah, fairly natural to them. We are going into an election, though. This is the truth of the article and similar articles. We're going into untested waters when we go into an election where a combination of AI systems and deepfake rendering and things attendant to them are capable of convincing the average person. So you're not talking about the high info person that says, well, this sounds fishy, I'm going to fact check it. We're talking about the average voter specifically. Keep in mind that the average voter has an IQ of about 90. To those of you who are around that or below that, I'm not trying to insult you, but there's a difference in the processing capability with regards to, snapshot fast news. That's just the fact. And again, my apologies, I suppose. The average voter within a couple of years probably is going to be capable of being taken in by deepfakes. Like right now, they're not 100%. The really well-made ones look realistic enough to be kind of passable, but they tend to be used for hyperbolic situations like Trump fleeing from the NYPD, the Pope in the puffy pimp jacket or something. When they become more subtle, when people understand the subtleties of using that for political memetics, it will become a problem. You can look for the government to try to regulate AI and video technology. You can look for companies to be very much pressured to make sure that the result that is created with their programs is marked specifically, probably in tangent with social media sites so that it's automatically registered as, hey, this isn't real, this was AI generated. They will try to stymie. And the reason why they're going to do that really is because they don't want more inventiveness. They don't want more entrepreneurs slipping their rope and having more upward mobility. They'll cast it off as because they don't want disinfo. That is prediction number one. Number two, it will convince some people of things that are not real. It will be used for actual disinformation. It will be probably blamed on Russia and China and political movements, but a lot of it will be grassroots. It'll be some script kiddie, some 20-year-old in college dicking off, just sitting there beating off and playing around with ChatGPT-4 or whatever, and developing images to troll other people. It's effectively really high-level trolling. And it will fool some people. So the reality here is, yes, we're entering into an election, the first U.S. election, in which deepfake technology has almost just gotten to the point where it's passable. I think the audio side is easier. When you don't have a video to go along with it, it's easier. So if you take audio clips of a person, like say someone takes 100 hours of me speaking, and they run it through a computer, and they make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted. They're capable of making me say effectively anything with any intonation in an audio file of up to some arbitrary period of time, and it will sound very much real. And the only way to prove that it's not real, of course, will be to make every file very proprietary, track everything, and get government involved, which is very convenient for the government. I'm sure the unipartyists will be using that at any time, along with their partners in big tech, who will very much be happy to fact check anything that is grassroots, but they will not fact check the ones that are made by the ADL or the SPLC or any of their other donor party members. You can expect, and this goes far beyond the election, they'll be doing this for some time to come because there's a reason for them to do this. Always ask yourself, is there a benefit to be had and what are the risks? Well, the risk is nothing because they control these systems. The benefit is that they can knock people out and destroy their reputations without legal retribution. Gra, I just want to say, love you, brother man. Thanks for what you do. Thank you very much. The Patriot Chiro, you can tell you're dealing with a Marxist if they capitalize the word black and fail to capitalize the word white. This article, I think, capitalizes the word white, though, the one that I was getting to. Tom Palmer, there was a fuss about digital blackface in 2017 when BBC News did a vid about it. Happy Monday, sticks and clankers. Yes, I was initially wrong in my morning's video. I thought it was a novel thing, but that's because it fell so flat. I never saw anything fucking about it. And in 2017, I was pretty cued into meme culture, so I'm sad that nobody ever showed me a clip of that at the time. Should have had my DMs open. Ian, did the decline happen in China and India? It's the fastest path to docile populace. Imagine it's intentional. What would your take be? Implications, huge. Yes, actually, China and India do have a severe reproductive decline right now. China more so, but part of that is civic. They had a one-child policy. Scrap that for a two-child policy. It didn't really work, so now they have a three-child policy. The implications are that the world population will stagnate and then slowly decline to comfort capacity. This is, by the way, something they will strenuously try to avoid because they want more slaves to make more shit for them. But it's actually a good thing if the world population declines somewhat, especially in certain areas of the world that are not particularly habitable and are being propped up completely artificially. The Copper Owl, I live next to Waco, and that one day Trump decided to visit, I just so happened to be out of my town. All my friends and family went without me. Woe is me. Maybe you can catch the next one. Maybe he'll go back. Saber Iran. So do you think the AI videos of presidents talking trash to each other playing video games is a danger in perfecting this potentially dangerous tool? No, those are funny. Like you look up Jovaquin or something like that. You know, the Joe Biden Skyrim crossover. Stuff like that. It's obviously not real. It's clearly comedic. There's no problem with it. What the worry is that there will be character assassination, especially of independent voices, by creating videos or audio of them or pictures that are simply not real but pass as real. And the problem is that right now, the fact-checking infrastructure of the internet comes in two forms, and this is the biggest fucking problem. Fact-checking by so-called professional sites, Snopes, etc., the Facebook fact-checking club, that is typically inaccurate, in which it's arbitrary, it's censorious, it's clearly on behalf of the uniparty. And an attempt to more grassroots it, which is present on Twitter with community notes, that is too fucking slow. I have made dozens of community notes on Twitter right now. And this is not a criticism of Musk. It's a criticism of whoever the fucking hell is guiding the program and getting people aboard. Right now, it can take days or even weeks to fact check a post. So something can be clearly defamatory, clearly censorious, clearly insane, clearly wrong, objectively speaking, and your community note never even goes through. It never even appears there. So effectively 99.9% of the people that'll ever interact with the post interact with it before the post gets fact-checked. So it's useless. It's potentially useful. It's a good idea on paper, but it hasn't been carried through with enough. I wish they would fine-tune it and make it much, much faster. Wolf on the Plains. My husky Obi crossed the Rainbow Bridge Friday. He was the best of puppers, the goodest of good boys. Love your pets as much as they love you. Rip to Obi, a good pupper boy. Crossover Maniac. I heard analog video cannot be deepfaked. Is this true, and is this a return to video? I don't know. You're asking the wrong person with regards to issues on that side of tech. The technological side of tech I am not so good at as the branding and making of content. The Grizzly, will Trump's Internet Bill of Rights would protect AI, or would he unfortunately join in on the censorship and start pushing an Internet Patriot Act? The Internet Bill of Rights would protect individual speech. Of course, an AI is not an individual. It's a thing interacted with an individual with. I don't know, to tell the truth. I don't know which way he would lean. BW, AI will replace some actors too. La ha ha. Yeah, that's interesting that they can revive actors and actresses from the dead with that technology. I suppose I wouldn't care. You know, I died 100 years ago after making some silent films, and yeah, it'd be kind of cool. You get revived and shit. Rider of the Metal Horse. In the legal realm, deepfakes could cause problems with audio, picture, and video evidence, calling them into question in courts. Yes, but look for the courts to ignore that fine fact and just assume the guilt of the defendant anyway. Another prediction. Mopey Hornet, Matty made observation that future media will use QR code imprint on every photo to back and every photo who took it, where at and which establishment is behind it. Yeah, great way to trace people more now, isn't it? You create an artificial problem and you create a solution that doesn't quite solve anything. Ian, yo, you're conflating population control with testosterone reduction for control of docile citizenry. Women and soft men will never rebel. Same coincidence. Yes, it is softening the population, but only in certain parts of the world. I would say that the solution to that is to allow the population to gently throttle back. And then we can have more forests and free land, and people can have more property to themselves. That should be the goal of the world. A world in which everyone has at least a little bit of room to roam. If you want to live in the skyscraper, if that's your kind of thing, that's perfectly fine. Leave some land for the rest of us. Buddha T-Boy sent $9.99. No comment. Thank you very much. Next news story. We've got Israel currently effectively in flames, actually. Mass protests breaking out all over Israel, especially in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Israel's Ben Gurion Airport halts departures as part of strike action. There is a general strike going on there, too. And by the way, Herzog himself, the actual president of Israel, has called on the government to halt their attempt at judicial overhaul. What Netanyahu is trying to doing is defang the judiciary from fucking with him. And a weird coalition is forming here. You see people on the left, and left is mainly against Netanyahu. They're mainly on the side of blocking the reform. The right is really splintered, though, and it really depends on their religious aspect. So the really orthodox Judaists and sort of the Netanyahu hardline Sivnats, they support the move. Other fringe aspects of the right and the left don't. And so we're seeing a really strange bedfellows situation here, attending, again, protests that are numbering easily within the high tens of thousands ranges. They appear to be growing larger than that. Their defense minister was fired. Netanyahu let go of him. I'll read that one verbatim. This was earlier today that it was reported on, although I think yesterday was the day of the firing. Israel's defense minister, and defense minister when you're in a country that's on a constant war footing with multiple neighboring states is pretty significant. So we're, again, untested waters mode. Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, was fired after calling for a pause in the government's drive to overhaul the country's judicial system in a speech Saturday night. Gallant is a member of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party. So he's a member of the same party as the dude that fired him. So he's an ally of Netanyahu, and he's saying, whoa, we might want to slow it down here. We're having problems. I think the basic concept is you have two groups within that sort of nationalistic core within Israel. Those that want to go ahead with this and hyper-nationalize and say, fuck the protesters. And those who say, well, the protesters may say, fuck you, and cause chaos. And because, you've got Palestine over there, Syria up to the north, we have things to consider that do not allow us to destabilize at this time, not safely speaking. So we'll see what happens there. His statement was, we need to stop the demonstrations and protests and reach out for dialogue. Any manifestation of refusal that eats away at the strength of the IDF and harms the security system should be stopped immediately. So again, he's not saying this because he's siding with the protests. He's saying, hey, it's going to fuck our security state up. We'll get invaded or something. In reference to the refusal of some Israeli Defense Forces reservists to train and protest at the government's plans. So the military, at least parts of it now, is well involved. You could see regime change there. The re-election of Netanyahu was definitely fraught. The coalition thus built is fraught. You have some problems going on over there in the so-called Holy Land. It's the Holy Land. Everyone keeps killing each other over it for the last 5,000 years. God, the sand should be red at this point with the blood of all of the innocents that were slain over this one chunk of land simply because of its location and its religious importance. Maybe people should ask whether their various gods really would suggest that that's a good thing or whether it's pure fucking evil. But they won't, because a lot of it is civic in nature, overlapped and using religion as an excuse. Mega Sea Monkey, men in the U.S. need to lift weights and watch sticks to raise their testosterone. Clank gains. Yeah, coffee is good for that, I hear. Disclaimer to YouTube, I'm just saying that in jest. No medical misinfo here, bro. Don't disinfo me, bro. Sticks, I live in Israel. The leftoids have shut down the entire country. Things are getting really bad. They don't want to give up their stranglehold. Yeah, I mean, I have no clue what's going to happen there. The protests are enormous comparatively. I mean, the Israeli population, although it's densely populated, is not huge. So to have, 100,000+ people in Tel Aviv alone and more in Jerusalem protesting at the same time, well, you can't shoot them all. I mean, you can, but, you'd probably depopulate your own country in the process. Durafity, the biggest threat of deepfakes might be inciting ethnic strife. For example, a deepfake of an Indian Hindu leader calling for the burning of Qurans. Yep, that'll happen. And then we'll have a whole nother wave of categories of criminals. You made a deepfake that incited someone else to violence. So it's your fault, even though it was clearly satirical. I would be very careful with using deepfakes for socio-political purposes unless you happen to have uniparty backing, in which case you're okay because you have the complete immunity from the normal legal process. Next news story. Asian Americans are anxious about hate crimes. The TikTok ban rhetoric isn't helping. Weigh in a little bit of depth here. Asian Americans should be concerned about hate crimes towards them. However, all of these articles I noticed that talk about the situation identify the wrong perps or typical perps with regards to this. They are not white Klan members. They don't wear MAGA hats. They're not carrying signs that say Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. They didn't just go to the evangelical church. They are not going to be eating unseasoned chicken tonight, et cetera, et cetera. I could continue this all day. That's not the people that are attacking random Asians. The people that are attacking random Asians belong to other groups. Again, we should be able to speak frankly about this like we did 10 years ago on the fucking internet in order to give a little bit of fucking focus to the story, but we're not allowed to do that. Crime statistics are not allowed to be repeated on a site like YouTube anymore. If it was a Rumble exclusive, I guess we wouldn't have a fucking problem. The fact is that it is not John Smith over there with his polo shirt and his Segway that is going down the street with a baseball bat and randomly targeting little old Asian ladies. Show me a fucking example of this. You're not going to find any. It doesn't happen. There are other groups that are attacking random Asian citizens. And part of the TikTok rhetoric thing, fuck that shit. TikTok has nothing to do with it. They're just trying to run cover for TikTok because they want commie propaganda to continue to be available to 13-year-olds and for them to keep twerking and doing other stupid shit that they'll regret for the rest of their lives when they realize that China is creating a goddamn dossier on you with every cringe thing that you are doing. That is literally the goal. Next generation of people who can run for office. We've got all of you saying and doing cringy things, potentially even illegal things. Well, you're not running for office because the CCP just sent you an email, or they don't use email by them. They just sent you a DM or a telepathic message telling you, hey, that would be a bad idea. Do you remember this DM that you sent 3 years ago? Do you remember this video that you made and then deleted when you sobered up? Hey, no politicians left. The only people left to run for office will be a bunch of out-of-touch rural evangelicals. Maybe the commies are doing the wrong thing and really fucking up by this strategy, but that is what it is. It is an attempt at wide-scale blackmail, guaranteed. It's really more about COVID. It's more about the fact that happened to come from China, and it did. But there's a difference between somebody from Japan and someone from China. There's a difference between someone who immigrated from China to start a business and is a good capitalist and somebody who's a member of the Chinese Communist Party living in Shanghai. There's a difference, but to believe it or not, hey, liberals out there and legacy media, you don't seem to understand this. Believe it or not, Vietnamese people aren't Taiwanese. People from India aren't Pakistani. People from Mongolia aren't Chinese. Filipinos are not Koreans. You never would have guessed it by the singular use of the Asian moniker. Now, some people have difficulty telling these sub-ethnic groups apart from one another. I have a little bit less of a problem with that because I tend to be linguistically inclined and I like to study demographics and shit. I sort of have to. That's true. But look at who's actually, attacking little Miss Chen over there, the 80-year-old Chinese grandma. Again, it's not John Smith. He's not riding a Segway. He's just not. That almost never happens. It's like 99% of the time, it's different groups of people are responsible for that, especially in diverse neighborhoods, I've noticed. It's very interesting how that's happened. It's like this never seems to happen in the lily white suburbs where Mrs. Chen's son lives, and he happens to be a Harvard PhD. Very interesting. Interesting article. I would go through the article, but fuck the article because it's just propaganda anyway. Sticks. I was arguing with friends about free speech and did rather poorly. How do I answer? Don't allow Nazis to speak because the words induce violence. Ask them this. If a Nazi says that they like strawberry ice cream, are they arguing for any form of violence? The average person is not actually a frenetic lunatic that spends all of their time singularly dwelling on one issue. So ask them this. They're saying that the Nazi is uniquely single-minded, that they have race war on their mind. Ask them if they do not share a similar obsession wherein they see everything, they perceive it as being Nazi. So if someone who they don't like says something that would otherwise be conjectured as innocuous, they still interpret it as though it's a dog whistle. Then ask them about the memes of the OK symbol or drinking milk or any of these other things that have happened in the last half decade. Were people not hoodwinked because they themselves had that single-minded mentality? They believed it. They actually believed a bunch of shit posters on the internet when they said that milk was going to become a new white supremacist dog whistle because the ADL told them so, and the ADL got the idea from 4chan. They believed it. Lots and lots of people still believe it to this day. They're nuts. And then the final news story, of course. Oh boy, we have to talk about this one. And a good one, trust me, it is. Christie says he'll decide 2024 run in the next 60 days. So, Christie himself, I hope this happens. If I believed in a god, like in a theistic sense, I'm apatheistic, so don't worry, I'm not a hardline atheist anymore or anything like that. I just don't care about the fucking issue because I just don't care. If I did have like a theistic view, I believe in Jehovah or Allah or whatever, I would be praying. I would be hoping and praying. I'd be on my prayer mat or in front of the altar right now. Please, Christie, please run for the presidency. It would be the funniest thing ever. And by run, I mean lumber. By run, I mean shamble around in a slow gravitational manner. I don't think that he's exactly jogging a mile. Here's why he said that he would decide that in the next 60 days. It's to wait for DeSantis. And I talked about this morning. And it is important. This is the important political part. What Christie is saying is that he doesn't want Trump to win and doesn't think he can win. I think in his case, it's actually genuine. I don't think he thinks Trump can win the general. I think he's too tarnished by scandal or whatever. And I don't think he wants him to win because Trump snubbed him. Trump mistreated Christie in Christie's mind. He endorses Trump. He gets to stand up there after a brief speech once, and then he's shuffled along his merry way. And by shuffle, I mean lumber. And he feels slighted by that. Now, he looks at the field and he says, well, there's really only one other person in the field who has a chance. That's Ron DeSantis. So if DeSantis runs, I think Christie steps down. I think he announces he is not decided to run and immediately becomes a very early and vociferous proponent of Ron DeSantis, a coattail rider, because he realizes that even if there's an outside chance, because Trump leads by 15 points, Trump has larger crowds, he has more fundraising capabilities overall, although DeSantis fans will tell you otherwise. Despite all that, there's the possibility that DeSantis gets the nod. And Christie's saying whether he wins or loses means nothing. I affixed myself to the coattails potentially of the nominee. Now, if he's wrong and Trump wins, doesn't matter. Christie already burned the bridge with Trump. He has nothing to lose by backing DeSantis. He only has something to gain if it's successful. If likewise DeSantis does not get in, so DeSantis says, no, I've told the people of Florida I'm going to be their governor. What I think about Trump is immaterial. He will probably half-ass it at that point. Well, I like Donald. I disagree with him sometimes, but he's decided to run. I've decided not to. I'm endorsing him. Christie will get in. Christie will enter the race if Ron DeSantis doesn't, because he's hoping to be the primary TDS candidate. Now, he is not entirely wrong. in this case, who is he running against? Because Trump has sewn up, almost half the vote anyway. So Christie would not win. He doesn't even want to win. He wants to get as much voting as possible so he can write a book, so he can get a cabinet position or whatever the fuck he wants to do. Who is he running against? Nikki Haley, the premier war pig, and Ramaswamy, the also-ran who virtually nobody knows anything about. At this point, it's a completely empty field for Christie to run up 20 points. Yes, I think he could actually potentially get to that simply because there is a TDS vote. And he knows this. He's doing this entirely for egotistical, self-serving purposes. He cannot win. It is impossible. His optics are terrible. He's got more baggage than Trump, that's for fucking sure, especially after the last bit of his run there in politics. Oh, what did he do right at the end? When he was about to leave New Jersey. What was that incident? Oh, that's right. There was a government shutdown and the beaches weren't open, but he took his family to the beach anyway, and then people were taking pictures of them from plane. Yeah, that went over really well. Hey, Christie, there's a reason why you were in the upper 20s when you left office. He can't win, but he can drain a double-digit proportion of the votes. Again, 20 is probably the upper limit. 15 or even 10 would be more likely, but that's still ahead of what Haley's at. That's still ahead of what Ramaswamy's at. He thinks genuinely, I think, that he can get enough attention. He can put a few issues on the table. In the end, he drops. He'll have to. He may or may not go full TDS. He could run as a spoiler candidate in the general. You could have Christie running as an independent. That would be hilarious. I wouldn't put it past him. Just more attention for him. That's all he cares about. So yeah, my read on this is that if DeSantis does get in, Christie does not. He endorses DeSantis and works for him as a proxy. He gets right aboard on that because he thinks that there's a possible benefit and there's no detriment. It's a no-brainer. Why the fuck wouldn't he? He is a strategic mind. He's not dumb. He's just corrupt and bumbling. If DeSantis does not get in, I suspect Christie will run. And the reason why he chose that 60-day statement is because Ron DeSantis is expected by some of his insiders to announce in May. What's 60 days from now? The ass end of May. It's as simple, it's as clear as day, dude. I know exactly what Christie's doing. He's waiting to see about DeSantis. By the way, please send no more super chats. I have to do some other things in a bit. Stephen Nizek, Chris Christie's real reason for waiting 60 days. He's worried that Rand Paul will enter the 24 primary race just to ruffle stomp him again like 2016. No, I don't think so, because DeSantis has effectively ruled it out if Trump's in and Trump is in. Lance Corporal Veteran keeps seeing Piers Morgan on the news again after his second ejection from the UK, where he's too right-wing for them, but he's too left-wing for U.S. conservatives. Just a moment, that might be the Mail or Liz. All right, everyone, we do have a baby delivery now, so I'm going to have to go offline. I don't think there's any more super chats. So, yeah, we rambled about Chris Christie anyway. The big news of the day, Chris Christie might actually be goddamn insane. I wouldn't put it past him. He's definitely got an insane diet. Again, though, he's definitely not running for the presidency. At most, he is going to shamble or lumber around slowly, drawing things into his gravitational field. Thus, he has more to eat. It slowly orbits him. All the food when he walks into a restaurant, he just reaches out and he grabs a donut or a steak or whatever, bowl of spaghetti or something like that. So, yeah, we have to go off. Again, I may be getting some MREs over the coming days, so there will be extra videos probably over that period. That's about all.